Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of War Thunder. Today I'm going to show you three independent flights in War Thunder Sim mode. Flights which weren't bad, but they weren't particularly spectacular either, so I thought, well, they don't deserve their own videos. Instead, I'm going to show you the most interesting bits of each of them and slap them together in one and the same video. So my first flight here is in the Italian C202 in Combined Arms battle. So you have tanks and aircraft in the same matchup. There on my 2 o'clock you can see the bit of the map where the actual tank battle takes place. And as said, I'm flying the Italian Machi C202, an aircraft which has fairly good performance, but it is severely limited in terms of firepower, because its armament is just comprised of 2 light machine guns and 2 heavy machine guns, and I'm now bouncing on an American P-40E. The 2 aircraft, I think at the time, those were the only aircraft you could fly in this particular event. The 2 are fairly well balanced. The C202 has better performance in most of the categories. The P-40 does roll a little bit better, but the P-40's main advantage over the C202 is its firepower, which is comprised of 6 heavy machine guns all in the wing. So that is a definite advantage for the Warhawk. And there goes my first kill. And there weren't too many aircraft around to shoot at, and also the HUD was disabled, as you can see in the video, so it made for some interesting aircraft identification, because you didn't have any labels popping up at close range telling you whether the aircraft in front of you is in fact an enemy or friendly. So it was very important to take a look twice and not open fire at the first aircraft you saw. And there's another enemy. I'm just coming up behind him. But of course I have very limited firepower with those 2 light machine guns in the wings and the 2 heavy machine guns. Why not just hit him very slightly? It couldn't have done much damage, and I think I lost him in the ground clutter there, which is very easy in War Thunder. Actually, one of the easiest ways to find and identify aircraft is to keep an eye out for traces. Like here, we can see a P-40 in the distance taking shots at a friendly U-87 Stuka, and I'm maneuvering here to get on his tail for a better shot, reducing the angle between me and him, placing myself right on his tail. And of course, again, my firepower is letting me down. I did get some hits into him. He's now leaking fuel, but nothing too critical. And he's decided to head towards his own base, which is a wise thing to do, especially as I think he was the only enemy aircraft left on his team. But he does make a fatal mistake by just pulling up here, slowing down. I can just cut his turn and get some good hits into him, critically damaging his tail control. And from there on he couldn't avoid just simply running his aircraft into the ground, netting me another kill. And that's it in terms of kills for this match, because there simply wasn't any other aircraft to shoot at. So let's head into the next sortie. So this flight was a sortie in the Großen Pocket event with the Soviet Air Force facing off against the Luftwaffe, and for this occasion I took my trusty Bf-109 G2 Tropical for a spin, and so far this is one of my, or the favorite fighter for me in War Thunder, at least of the ones that I have unlocked. simply because it's so well balanced. It is fast, it climbs like no other, and it is also pretty agile, which means that you can actually risk turn fighting your opponents when you are forced to do. I would never advise doing the same in a Focke-Wulf 190 or similar. So, a couple of minutes into the flight I spot a contact, and he's actually diving on something, so I keep an eye on him to see what this is all about. There seems to be a dogfight, but I'm being a little careful here because I'm only in a G2. You've got stuff like 109 G14s, LE5 events and likes flying about, which are much faster, especially at low level, than a 109 G2. And sure enough, I have an enemy here in front of me, so I dip down and try to stay on this low 6 so he can't spot me, because pretty much every fighter does have a blind spot behind and below. I think he saw me there. I'm going for a snapshot, and sure enough I disable his tail control, which means he's going to dive in to his death. And there's some gunfire off in a distance, so I turn to have a look at that as well. So a couple minutes later I spot another pair of contacts on my 3 o'clock low. I just zoomed in there, and there's more contacts on my level in the distance, but for the time being I decide I want to investigate on the 2 contacts I spotted there on my 3 o'clock low, which are sure enough a German and a Soviet aircraft. And I dive to investigate. I think it's a Yak at this point, and I dive down and from close range give him a good burst, setting him on fire. But plot twist, the Yak is now on fire, and actually pretty much a certain kill, but the 109 on my team decides to be a total dick and steals the kill. So this round wasn't going too well for my team, as I can probably tell by the score discrepancy on top of the screen. So before the match ended I wanted to get in another air kill, and I sure enough spot an aircraft over our ground forces, and I'm pretty sure he's an enemy, so I dive in to investigate. And he's in a constant right hand turn, which makes shooting him and setting him on fire an easy enough thing. So he's not having a good fight and a good flight. He's out of the action, and pretty much that's all she wrote for this round. There were no more air kills because my team lost shortly after. This brings us to the third and final sortie of this video, which is a flight in a Japanese Ki-43-2. An aircraft that I've actually grown to like a lot. Obviously it's a very lightly armored aircraft. You simply cannot afford giving the enemy opportunities to shoot at you, because bad things will happen. This aircraft will light on fire very easily compared to other aircraft, because it just doesn't have any protection, especially no fuel tank protection. On the other hand, it has pretty good performance for its tier. It's fairly fast when completely modified. It goes up to about 560 kmh. It climbs very, very quickly. I think it even beats some of the early 109s by quite a stretch. And it's of course very, very agile. You can actually handily outturn something like a Hurricane or a Spitfire without breaking a sweat. And actually had some fun doing just that in some of the Japan versus Great Britain matchups, because most of these Spitfire drivers don't know how to energy fight. They are relying solely on the maneuverability of the aircraft, and they fail miserably when they go up against an aircraft that actually beats them in a turn fight hands down. This sortie actually turned out to be one of the fastest and quickest ones I've ever played in sim mode in War Thunder, because in just a time of a few minutes my team would eventually lose. But before that happens, I'm diving here into a dogfight with at least one enemy aircraft. That's a Wildcat I'm diving on and shooting, and I score some critical hits on him, disabling his tail controls, and there's another Wildcat just arriving in the fight, and the Wildcat I just shot at went into the drink. I'm setting up on this other Wildcat's tail. But with just 2 heavy machine guns, it actually takes some substantial firing time to get any sort of critical hit into your opponent, especially into something as tough as a Wildcat. And I think I hit the oil tank there because the Wildcat is streaming smoke. And I take some hits here, and I'm thinking that's an enemy, but it turns out that's just an idiot on my team shoulder shooting because, well, it's War Thunder and everybody just goes apeshit over getting kills, and they don't mind if they shoot you in the process if they can actually get a kill. And I finish off the Wildcat, and my team can only look onto it. And you can see the victory counter is slowly going down, and in just a minute or so my team will end up losing. Anyhow, this concludes this video here. We've had 3 sorties in War Thunder's simulator mode. We've combined a total of 6 kills in 3 flights, 7 if you count the Yak 9 that was stolen from me by a friendly 109. So I hope you guys enjoyed this compilation of War Thunder sorties, and I'll see you guys in the next video.